All right, let's start it up. We are back with more Deceive Inc. I'm doing some voiceover here. In the background footage, we'll be playing Madam. We got two games. I switched weapons between games, so using Expertise 1 and Passive 3 for both games. And in Game 1, we're using Weapon 3, and then I believe it's Weapon 1 in Game 2. Really, that's just kind of background stuff that I'm going to talk over, so I hope you enjoy the gameplay. This is gonna be me talking for most of the video. Obviously very disconnected from the gameplay. I've never really made a video covering this sort of topic before, I guess. Never really felt I needed to, but I guess I finally do. First and foremost, I'm sure people have noticed, but just to formalize it, we're slowing down videos on the channel. I mean, if you're somehow new, we were doing Deceive daily for a bit. We've tried some other games here and there. We're trying some Deadlock currently. We're gonna slow down. We were not gonna do daily for I don't know until when. But I want to say every other day, but it's probably gonna be 3, maybe 4 times a week with no real specific days. Which I guess kind of works out every other day. So that's the goal at this point, is just to do 3 or 4 videos a day, whether that's Deceive or Deadlock or some edited stuff I still have in the bank I'm not really going to get into, but I talked about them in a previous video if you've been watching for a bit, what I do have planned. That's still all ongoing. It's just we are slowing down what we are doing, or the just number of videos, so... yeah, that's really it for channel stuff, I think. Everything else is going well. We're just slowing that down. And I guess part of the rest of the video is going to be me talking about, and the reasons for that are going to become apparent. But I found myself being not really happy about the recent Deceive update, I guess. I shouldn't say happy about it, but to put it bluntly, I think the game's gotten stale on me. I mean, I've been playing it for a year and a half now or something, and I don't know if we're at 500 videos yet, but we're getting there pretty quick, so the fact it's taken this long for me to say, it's getting a little stale now, is kind of impressive in its own right, but it is. It just frankly is, so that's one of the reasons slowing down the videos, but I did want to talk about kind of the staleness and what I think has happened and what could change to fix it. So we're going to talk about, on my other monitor, I have, well, I guess it doesn't matter to you guys what monitor it is, but I have the recent patch notes, and I just want to talk about kind of after, I don't know, how long has it been since this patch dropped? I guess it would tell me if I scrolled. A week and a half? 2 weeks? No. Week and a half. After a week and a half, how I kind of feel about this. We did a patch notes video, and I feel like I was pretty accurate in that, but well, let's go over it. So first and foremost, I'm basically scrolling through the patch notes again to talk about bits and pieces as I go. And then there's some other stuff I want to talk about after that as well. So that's going to be the focus of this video. So first and foremost, Suspicion comes up. I really do like what they did with Suspicion. The change to the what they call the feel seen, where if someone's not looking at you, it doesn't go up, it actually goes down. That felt the current Suspicion feels way better than last patch Suspicion. You can even see, I think in the video on screen right now, I've taken Cover Accelerator completely out of the build again, similar to how I had it before Suspicion in general. Last patch Suspicion Cover Accelerator was a must-have. You couldn't play the game at a reasonable speed without it. You needed it at least on blue. Even like gray and green weren't cutting it, and like putting it on purple meant you didn't always get it. So it had to be blue or gold, right? and it worked in both those slots. So, but you can see I've reverted and I've taken it completely out because I didn't used to play with it pre-Suspicion. Might need some Cover Accelerator, but at least I feel like I don't need it anymore, which is a really nice change. But that's somewhat also a negative, because the fact I never feel like the Suspicion, like I rarely, if ever, have to slow down to Suspicion in this patch. From the games I've played, I'll run around like I did pre-Suspicion entirely, and I might path a little differently to avoid some like NPC routes. But generally, I just kind of do what I did before, and suspicion doesn't affect me too much. It does sometimes, but for the most part, I'm like, okay, well, and now I have to slow down for a moment, which is kind of nice. But this might be a hot take, but I kind of wish it was a little stronger, right? Like just a touch. Let's not go overboard, but I think the pendulum is swung back to it's not enough at this point, I don't think. If the goal was to kind of slow the people who are always running down more, and I kind of think that was, whether they said it outright or not, it's no longer real. It's no longer really achieving that. So I kind of want it to be a little bit stronger again. But I do like what they have done. It feels way better than it did before. And actually, that's just a really good thing that changed. We started with a really good thing. So, oh yeah, and the portrait thing, so I'm scrolling down. The portrait thing telling you if you're like scared or angry or what your cover's doing, just excellent. I love that. Just so you know, it's like a really minor thing, but it's really nice to have. Then we get to vault terminal delay. I do also like vault terminal delay. Except with how it interacted with Madam Passive 3, but it is, you know, that's a different topic. We'll get into that, don't worry. But the actual terminal delay, if there's no Madam Passive 3 involved, I think was a really good change. Honestly, I think they could up it to like 20 seconds, because sometimes you like hack the terminal and then you got to get some intel around and you feel like you kind of wasted your 15 seconds. But that might just be a getting used to it thing where I got to hack the intel around and the terminal lasts. But yeah, I think that was a really nice change, except with how it interacts with the one ability we'll talk about. And then guard changes, they're not meleeing anymore. Well, they still can if you're in range, but they're mostly just shooting. And I feel like a lot of people have felt this, but it feels really different because obviously I don't know how long people have played the game or watched me play the game, but guards didn't, you know, they started similar to how they are now, and then they changed them to melee only at the 0 heat level, and then they set them back now, but they don't feel the same as they did before. They feel more aggressive or stronger. Recently in a game I played, I was in like Silver Reef and like walked into a guard room, spotted someone and shot them. And before they turned around to shoot me back, I'd taken like 30 damage from a guard, and I was just like, oh, like I don't know if I was red, maybe I hit them 3 or 4 times for 9 damage, and the guards had turned and done the same amount of damage to me. It was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should be picking my fights in better spots or getting used to this, but geez, that was a lot. We did win the fight, but it was like, it was a lot closer than it should have been considering I shot them in the back. But, well, all these things I'm saying are nice, except the guard changes, obviously I think they're too aggressive or doing too much damage, or something's wrong there they need to look into, and I think a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people kind of agree with that, but they're not really, they're not refreshing the game so much. The vault terminal delay is we're playing a bit different, but the suspicion change kind of just undid a change earlier, so it feels kind of the same as before, so it's not really new-ish, it doesn't really feel fresh, it's just kind of the same. Like suspicion previously, when we had cover accelerator suspicion, I'm gonna call it, I guess, felt like we had a lot. Like that was a big change. We had to adapt a lot, and now it's gone. And it's like, okay, well now we feel like we didn't adapt to anything, or there wasn't a lot of changes. It's just gone. Not gone entirely, but yeah. So that's some of the staleness, I think, is they probably put a lot of time. Well, I don't want to say probably. I'm assuming they put a lot of time into that. I don't know how the game developed, but it didn't really end up feeling a lot fresher to me, at least. So I think that's part of it. We'll get into some other stuff as we go. But I see game 1's already ending. Ooh, okay. Well, we might have to speed up a little bit. But the retinal scanner, I've literally attempted to use it post event, and I can't find a VIP. I haven't got to use it a single time. I just, when I need it, or when I think to need it, I can't find a VIP, and if I find a VIP, I don't really, it's not at the time I need it. So hopefully they do something there where they said they'd keep an eye on it. It's all good. We're not really going to talk about Sound Eclipse Vault or like the Vagrant Shore B. Those are fine. The vibes are a little off in Vagrant Shore V, but I've said that before. But this is the really big thing I want to talk about finally, is the balance changes that they did and the changes that they didn't do, which usually we try not to talk too much about because I understand they only have so much development time between patches, and obviously the suspicion thing probably took a while. I get it, but I think it's probably time we need a big balance update, a balance shakeup. Because in this back to school update, they balanced 5 things. I counted them, which I mean, I can count to 5. Ace Weapon 3, Larson Weapon 1, Madam Passive, Octo Weapon 2, and Sasori Weapon 3. And technically, the Umbrella Shield gadget is listed under balance, but they didn't really change it. They just kind of changed the color per team, which doesn't really affect me in solos. Maybe that's why, but we'll call it 5 things. And there's 12 agents with 3 weapons, 3 expertise, 3 passives each, which works out to like 108, we'll call them abilities in the game, right? Where, you know, whether it's a weapon, an expertise, a passive, there's 108 things going on. Not to mention 10, I think, gadgets plus 9 chips at 5 different levels, right? There's a lot of little levers in here you can pull just on that, not including like suspicion gains, losses, heat is a system, right? There's a lot of like other game systems involved that aren't just straight up abilities, and they kind of only changed like these 5 things, and I was like, oh, like that's a little boring. Frankly, that's kind of what it boils down to, is it's like, okay, well, the Octo buff, the Octo Weapon 2 buff was kind of crazy. That was a really fun video to make, I'm not gonna lie. But when I played with Sasori Weapon 3 now, I was like, this kind of sucks. It felt really bad to use now, I'm not gonna lie. I tried to make a video of it for a day or two, realized it wasn't really gonna happen, and and kind of gave up. But at least in solos, it feels really bad now, I'm not gonna lie. Worst case scenario is you're now hitting for 6 instead of 7, or like 10 to the head, but now it's 8 to the head. So you just lose. Like, I don't know what else to say there. If you have to hit someone 10 or more times in the head with this weapon to kill them, like no other weapon has to do that, right? And like most of the ones that get close to that number fire slower, and of course it's like, okay, well, you should have your stuff, your expertise, your passive, your gadgets all like funneling that. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes you just don't. Like sometimes you just don't. Sometimes it is the worst case scenario. Your expertise was down, which means you don't have a passive. You missed your drone shot, or your goo pods happen to be on cooldown. Like sometimes it's the worst case scenario and you just die, and it feels awful when that happens. Feels like there was literally nothing you could have done. Because your stuff's just on cooldown. There's no way to like make that cooldown faster. I could have just sat in the corner, I guess, maybe, or on a bench. I don't know. I guess there is stuff you can do, but the stuff you can do feels not good. So I'm really not happy with that change. And I know I'm like going hard on this one change, I guess, but I guess that's what we're doing now. And then the Madam passive, if you watch my patch notes video, or if you didn't, the Madam thing's just a straight buff to what might be the best ability in the game on what might be the best character in the game already. I think that was a crazy change, and I partially feel like they only did it at all because of the Vault Terminal thing, which again was good, but the Madam passive got so much better here, and that's one of the reasons we're doing Madam stuff in the background here. Is I'm just tracking people when terminals go off. It was a straight buff to what was already probably the best ability in the game, and it feels kind of bad. And then, yeah, that was kind of the big things. The Ace Weapon 3, well, I'm not super happy about. I get it. I again, I think that could have gone a different direction to achieve the result they wanted. It probably should have, but whatever, it's fine. And the Larson thing, the Larson weapon 1 fire rate went down. Honestly, that's probably a good one. I like that one. I think they could have actually done that to more weapons. We have like Chavez weapon 2, Squire weapon 1, all kind of when the auto fire ability or control switch came into play, all kind of went from being good to great, like just because you could fire them at max fire rate. And they did this Larson weapon 1, but they didn't really look at any of the other ones, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is they did these things, but they didn't do a lot of things. Like, quick example, Ace Weapon 2 has been widely considered, at least from my understanding, from my personal experience and from my understanding of the community, Ace Weapon 2 has been the worst weapon in the game for a long time. I don't even know how long, and I'm not going to go look it up right now, but it's been really bad for really long. And they just like haven't touched it, and I feel like that's kind of free. You just give it a little fire rate or a little damage every time you do an update until it's like, okay, this is good or great, or hey, you went too far, back it off a little bit. But I really wish Ace Weapon 2 was good or usable, because it feels so different than our other 2 weapons, and it would be nice if it did. Like, just because it would make Ace feel different than just a sniper all the time, which is fine. I love snipers. I love Ace too, but you know, if she had that variety, it would just be that much better. And then Yumi, I know this is me talking about Yumi, but I know the Yumi mains are a bit in shambles right now, although I think it's okay, a little better than it was maybe. Me trying not to push too many Yumi buffs here. But let's be honest, 2 of her expertises, the ones that aren't heal bubble, not all that well used right now. Her passives, she has the one that gets you gadget back better, and the other 2 that aren't used right now, and I just don't see that changing. And I'm pretty sure weapon 1's still like maybe the best one, which is kind of weird. So I don't know what I want from that, but I wanted something different. There's at least 4 abilities between Yumi's 9 that don't really get a lot of use that I see and know about. So maybe I don't have the data for this. I could be totally off on that, but that's certainly how it feels to me. So that's that. And then there's a lot of like little ones. Like, to me, Chavez weapon 1 and weapon 3 feel very much the same. That might just be a personal thing. Maybe there's nothing wrong there. But also, speaking of Chavez, his passive 2 currently. We used to run Gourmet Chavez a lot, which used the passive 2 when you got like 50 or 40, and they finally nerfed it. I think now it's 20 bonus health, which is a lot of bonus health. You know, because like gold chip's gonna get you 15, right? So it's just a passive that does more than that. But you gotta micromanage it the whole time. Versus his passive 3, which is effectively lifesteal-ish. Again, a little different, but functionally lifesteal. Where if you deal like 100 damage to someone, you also heal 20 damage back. So that's 20 damage for passive 3 that you don't have to micromanage, or there's 20 damage for passive 2 that you have to micromanage the whole game. It's kind of a no-brainer there. And again, that 20 damage on passive 2, you have to be shooting and landing shots on the person, but you want to do that anyway, because that's what the game, that's what we do in fights. So that's, I don't know, some thoughts. This has been kind of a weird video, but I see that the game 2 is coming to an end. I could probably talk about some other agents or abilities. Vigil passive 3. There, that's one. that one doesn't work properly. Doug just lets everyone in the room to him in. But that's what I'm getting at. I'd love to see, for whatever the next big update is, whether it's season 5 or some other event or just a big update, I would love to see a big balance update. And that's all. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, maybe, or liked the video if you did. I'll say comment on your thoughts, but like I don't know what people are gonna say, so I guess keep it civil if you're gonna argue. Other than that, I'll see you in the comments section, and subscribe for videos not like this, not as often as they used to be. Woo!